In this lesson, we will finish blocking in the creature's anticipation. So now all we need to do is add a bit of subtlety here. And here's how we'll do this. We'll kind of keep him in the same pose, but we'll have him start to fall a bit. Because what would follow is either the fall, where he gets struck too many times and he's had enough, or his attack, where he would run at the player. And if you'd like an idea as to how to approach that, well, we will provide the final animations for you so you can get an idea as to how you can approach animating this creature here. It really is all up to your imagination. So let's say we go ahead and move over to the next frame, on frame 90, and here's what we'll do. We'll have him start to fall just a bit. So he's come from his high point and now he's starting to drop just slightly. Let's go to frame 90 and we'll start to kind of drag him down a bit. Great. And then from here, we can have him look down a bit more. We want to kind of offset his poses in a way so it doesn't feel like it's all happening at the same speed at the same time. So we'll go ahead and kind of rotate his head up as he's starting to fall for a bit of drag. Great. Let's say we go ahead and take his left arm and we'll go ahead and kind of drop that down a bit more. Almost as if he's about to stomp down really hard because he's getting ready to attack the player. I'll go ahead and rotate his wrists. We want to make sure that the wrist plates are not intersecting, or at least in a major way. A little bit is fine. Sometimes you get that in games. But if we can avoid that as much as possible so it's not noticeable, well then that's good. Let's go ahead and take the right arm. We're going to drop that down a bit, but we'll also go ahead and move that out some, rotate the wrists in the same way. And I'd almost like to take that elbow and bring it up a bit higher. So he's kind of throwing that up. All right, great. So here's that subtle change. It's looking pretty cool. Like how we have the arms sliding out just a bit. Let's go ahead and take a look at the rest of the pose. We might want to take the thorax and maybe rotate that back. So we'll go ahead and have it rotate down a bit as he's starting to fall. We'll take the back control and rotate that in the opposite direction for a bit of drag. Okay, wonderful. So now let's go ahead and move to the next pose. Just about finished here. And this is where he'll kind of come down just a little bit more. We'll go ahead and grab the center of gravity and the arms. And we'll go ahead and just translate them down just a bit. Great. And then from here, what we could basically do is kind of open up the arms a bit more so he looks terrifying as he's starting to come down at the player, at our character. We'll go ahead and rotate the opposite wrist out and open up that arm some. I'd almost like to take that right arm, kind of drop that down a bit more. Let's not forget about the clavicles. Let's go ahead and make sure that we adjust those as well. So we'll go ahead and kind of drop that right clavicle down, and we'll do the same thing for the left side. All right, sweet. So here's what we end up with. Again, something subtle. Let's go ahead and take a look at this from another view. All right, great. I might go ahead and take this left arm, and I might go ahead and kind of bring it out a bit more. Let's go ahead and translate it out so there's more of a change there, so it doesn't look like the arm will pause when we start to smooth out this animation. All right, that looks cool. So next, let's go ahead and take the root. We'll grab his center of gravity and we'll rotate that down. And then we'll go ahead and add some drag to the back by rotating that back a bit. And then again, we'll go to our thorax and rotate that down and back. Sweet. So again, this is just a subtle change, but it should look really nice when we're ready to kind of refine this pose. And we will add more to this. This is just our blocking pass. So when we start to refine things, we might want to add, let's say, a leg shift so it looks like he's truly trying to keep his balance with all of this weight he's supporting. But this is basically our last pose here that we need to block in. So what we can do now is go ahead and grab all of our controls and lock this down on frame 100. So go ahead and keyframe that. And speaking of locking down poses, this would basically be a good time to go ahead and lock down the other poses. Now here's what we're going to do. We'll go ahead and deselect the global control after we've managed to lock down the start and end of each sequence. So we've done that already. We went to frame 60 and we've locked that down. We've made sure to lock down frame 100. We've locked down frame 1. And we've locked down frame 50 as well. So what that means is we can go ahead and deselect our global control and we can lock down the other controls on the other frames just to make sure that we hold this pose. We're not keyframing our global control at each pose because that's going to create a lot of keyframes for us to clean up. Remember, we're going to be animating this, translating back as he starts to go into his rear up. So we don't want so many keys to deal with when that happens. But we do want to make sure that we lock down the start and end of each sequence because we'll need to pop that global control back when we get to the next sequence. Also that when we move inside of Unity, the system knows where that starting point is. Alright, great. So we'll go through, we'll go to frame 10, we'll go ahead and keyframe everything except for the global control. Frame 20, let's go ahead and keyframe that. Just about done. Frame 30 and frame 40. So we've now locked down all poses. So guess what? It's now time to start refining the animation, and we'll begin that in the next lesson.